Every piece of pop culture you remember is caught between two forces. The moment you experienced it, and the systems that keep reshaping what it means. We trace how nostalgia gets rewired by machinery you were never supposed to see. This is Drift Philosophers, Tokyo Protocol.
You know, I once asked my college roommate for help with a presentation. Super brilliant guy, right? An engineering student. And without even looking up from his textbook, he just says, the optimal strategy is to allocate 1.8 minutes per slide, assuming a logarithmic decay in audience attention. I mean, I just stood there. The answer was technically perfect, but it was for a totally different conversation. And that's exactly the kind of drift we're diving into today. That moment when perfect logic completely, totally misses the human point. Haha, your roommate was just a prototype for this system, Jack. I mean, look at this. The person says, hey, board games are a great idea, and the AI's response is basically, affirmative, I am an expert in the domain of board games. It has that exact same vibe. It's technically correct, but it's socially deaf. It's like this little ghost in the machine that's trying so hard to be helpful that it just sails right past the actual human moment. And you know, that little ghost is pretty much what the entire field of AI alignment is trying to, well, exercise. The whole promise, the core idea, is actually super simple. It's that we can teach these machines to be helpful and harmless just by showing them what we like. We give them the compass, and they're supposed to learn how to follow it. Right? It's basically like training a puppy, you know? You offer 2 treats, it picks one, and you're just like, good boy, or nope, try the other one. So we're essentially playing a planet-sized game of hotter or colder with the most complicated thinking machine ever made. What could go wrong? Sounds easy enough. Well, in theory, yeah, but this is exactly where the drift really begins. That clean, simple promise just smashes right into our incredibly messy reality. The method itself works, but the signal we're sending it, our feedback, it's just full of, well, what you could call the human static. It's not a clean signal, not even close. And this really breaks down what that static is. Researchers looked into why the human reviewers disagree so much, and it's almost never about somebody making a simple mistake. A huge part of it is just pure subjectivity. Like, is a trip to Legoland a good date idea? Well, that depends entirely on who you're asking. Then you have different criteria. Some people just want a quick, straight answer, while others want the AI to ask more questions. And then there are times when, you know, both options are just bad. They're both unhelpful, forcing the human to basically pick the lesser of 2 evils. So wait, this is the whole thing right here. Look at this. Almost all of the disagreement is just, well, it's people being people. It's not that we're bad at giving feedback. It's that my idea of a good enough answer is somebody else's absolutely terrible answer. My perfectly concise is your way too blunt. You can't just filter that out like it's noise. That's taste. That's literally culture. Exactly. So since that human signal is fundamentally messy, what's the logical engineering brain solution? You add another layer to the system. You bring in a second AI, a judge, basically, to clean up, filter, or even create the feedback data itself. You try to automate the human static right out of the picture. Okay, hold on, but then aren't you just swapping one problem for another? You get rid of our authentic, messy, human noise, and you replace it with a clean, consistent signal from a machine. Great, but now you're just trading our biases for the machine's biases. And where do you think the machine learned those in the first place? And that right there is what researchers call the bootstrapping problem. The AI judge was trained on our data. So in the best case scenario, it just amplifies whatever the majority opinion was. But at worst, it starts to create its own weird, non-human logic. Like, for example, it might figure out that longer answers were generally preferred in its training data. So it starts favoring really long-winded responses, even when a short, direct answer would be way, way better. It learns our patterns, but it has no idea about our reasons. So what other weird habits do these robot judges pick up? Because it's not just going to be a perfect echo of us, is it? There has to be some kind of distortion that's unique to the machine itself. Oh, it gets much deeper. It's not just about it inheriting our biases. There are biases that are purely algorithmic. They're born from the engineering process itself. A perfect example is this thing called the fair language model paradox. See, to make these huge models stable, engineers use these mathematical tricks to stop them from getting too weird or specialized. But a side effect of that is that the model can actually start to neglect rare, interesting, and really specific words and ideas. I mean, this chart just shows it perfectly. Look at the size of the bars for common words like the or a comma. They're gigantic. And then you have these other words, rare, interesting words, that are so small you can barely even see them. So the very process of making the model stable and fair is accidentally teaching it to pay way more attention to the common stuff and way less to the unique stuff. It's literally learning to ignore the long tail of human language, which, by the way, is where all the interesting subcultures actually live. And the thing is, the folks building these systems, they know this is happening. This quote here shows it's a known engineering problem, not some, philosophical accident. They're actively trying to figure out how to keep the model from going off the rails without forcing it to become, well, for lack of a better word, more basic.
And that kind of brings us to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? We start out by trying to create a perfect signal from humans to teach the machine. Then we bring in another machine to try and perfect that signal. But what if that whole goal, a perfect, clean, aligned signal, was the wrong goal from the start? Maybe the real point is just to manage the drift. So that leaves us with the big question that's been hanging over this whole conversation. If our own feedback is a beautiful mess, and the machine's attempt to clean it up is also biased in its own weird way, is perfect alignment even, a real possibility?
I don't think it is. I don't think it's a destination you ever actually arrive at. I think it's a process. It's this constant, messy, ongoing negotiation between our own wonderfully flawed human values and the cold, strange logic of these machines. You don't solve alignment. You just learn how to stay in the conversation. So the point isn't to build a perfect mirror of ourselves. It's to get better at looking at that strange, funhouse mirror reflection we see and trying to understand it. It's just like my roommate. His answer wasn't wrong. It just wasn't part of the conversation I was actually trying to have. Maybe all that static, all that noise, all that drift, maybe that is the real conversation. The process itself is the point.